These pearls of wisdom are brought to you by Carl Johnson and members of the Oyster Bay Church of Christ, located at 1044 Shadeville Road, which is 4 miles east of Crawfordville, Florida.
Whose mouths must be stopped. The instruction in Titus 1 verse 11, whose mouths must be stopped, is one of the more striking commands in the New Testament. At first glance, it may appear severe, yet within its biblical context, it reflects Paul's deep concern for the health and stability of the early church. His goal was not to silence people by force, but to protect believers from false teaching and destructive speech that harmed the unity of the body. When understood properly, this passage offers essential guidance for modern church leadership, especially in a time when misinformation, divisive teaching, and harmful words, including gossip, are widespread. In the first century, the churches in Crete faced significant challenges. Certain individuals were spreading teachings that distorted the gospel and confused entire households. Paul urged Titus to appoint mature leaders who could confront these errors with firm yet godly leadership. The phrase, their mouths must be stopped, referred to silencing the influence of harmful teaching through truth, correction, and sound doctrine. This responsibility remains central for church leaders today as believers continue to encounter misguided theology not only from the pulpit, but also through books, social media, and informal conversations. One of the most practical modern applications of Titus 1 verse 11 is the need to address gossip, which functions much like false teaching. Gossip spreads quickly, damages reputations, sows division, and destabilizes families and congregations, exactly the kinds of outcomes Paul sought to prevent. Modern church leaders must help stop the mouths of gossip, not by intimidation, but by teaching believers the seriousness of their words and the biblical call to speak truth in love. Encouraging healthy communication, promoting reconciliation, and intervening when necessary are all ways leaders protect the church from destructive effects of whispered rumors and unverified stories. Yet, the method of addressing false teaching or harmful speech is just as important as the action itself. Scripture consistently instructs leaders to correct with humility, gentleness, and patience. Paul tells Timothy to correct opponents with meekness. And Galatians 6 verse 1 encourages believers to restore others in a spirit of gentleness. Effective biblical correction seeks restoration, not humiliation. Whether confronting false doctrine or discouraging gossip, leaders today must approach people with compassion, listening as much as they speak, and guiding others toward maturity rather than condemnation. Another lesson from Titus 1:11 is the call to value truth over popularity. Just as false teachers in Crete distorted the gospel for personal gain, modern leaders can be tempted to soften biblical standards to avoid conflict or maintain influence. However, faithfulness requires courage, especially when addressing uncomfortable issues like doctrinal error or gossip. The health of the church depends on leaders who love the truth more than approval. Ultimately, Titus 1:11 reminds us that the most effective way to stop harmful teaching and speech is through consistent, sound doctrine. When leaders faithfully teach Scripture, believers grow in discernment, in unity, and spiritual maturity. Grounded in truth, the church becomes a place where both false teachings and destructive gossip lose their power.
If you enjoyed today's Pearls of Wisdom and would like to hear more, just go to our website, oysterbaychurchofchrist.org, or visit us in person at 1044 Shadeville Road,